Every athlete is fueled by fire. Fire needs a spark. Hi, my name is Spencer Klein, and I will be talking about problems of paying college athletes through NIL. We will also cover how the transfer portal problems and how we need to make sure that we get rid of large donors' power to make decisions around sports teams. We also need to expand the funding to all schools. My proposal is that we pay college athletes based on the quality of their performance when they get to school. The universities will make sure to still give incentives for athletes to come, but the benefits should include scholarships, housing, meal plans, etc. Not all the TV media deals to help them gain money. I offer a couple solutions to back up this claim, specifically revenue sharing, amended Title IX, and collective bargaining. First, let's talk about revenue sharing. Every school should get $500,000 to start. The money will be used to make sure all the essentials are covered for the athletes. This money will be going towards facilities like locker rooms, tools for field maintenance, equipment for players, etc. Now, schools like Ohio State obviously spend more than smaller schools like High Point. Even if the spending difference is high, $500,000 will be a very good amount to cover all the expenses. According to USA Today's numbers for the 2024 fiscal year, those costs usually fall somewhere between $15,000 and $25,000. How much an athlete earns is all about their actual impact, not their high school tape. So, in the first season, athletes will not get paid yet. Coaches would use this time to see if the kid is committed to the team's goals and is willing to stay at the school. This structure creates an incentive to perform and gives them skills of hard work, which teaches them not to be entitled. Next, the way the athlete brands himself is crucial. The stronger the athlete's brand, the more they can earn through NIL deals, which helps the school gain more followers. These marketing skills will help them in the professional sports world because they will be able to prove that their value is more than what they produce on the football field or basketball court. However, the most important thing is academics. If the athlete's grades don't attain a certain standard, they are at risk of being kicked off the team and their earnings will evaporate. This keeps everyone accountable and makes sure no one gets special treatment. High Point University is unique in the way they present athletes with their money. Instead of throwing around big NIL deals, they offer scholarships and top-tier facilities, and they created an alumni-funded association specifically for athletes. Donors get special treatment like premium seats and access to players. Moreover, the school builds long-lasting community of sports fans. Not just alumni, that will be lifelong fans of HBU, and that could lead to other opportunities for the students. Now, if you were an athlete at HBU, would you like that system? Overall, revenue sharing gives athletes more benefits for performing well, but there still needs to be more enforcement from all the schools to make sure the gap does not get out of hand. Second, let's dive into Title IX requirements. Right now, Title IX does not require equal pay, and the viewership of men's and women's sports is so out of sync. As Andrew J. Haile outlines, the imbalance in viewership is due to the marketplace bias. Men's basketball and football bring in the most money, therefore the school really values it. The media also contributes to the trend of people paying attention to men's sports because I usually see more men's sports on TV than women's sports, even though they're covered at the same larger scales. This needs to be changed so we have equal representation. A big part of fixing that bias is changing how games are broadcasted. ESPN mostly highlights SEC and ACC schools, who are usually always ranked. Basketball works the same, but it seems to me that there is even less variety in the matchups. For example, the Champions Classic, which has been running for 15 years, has always had Duke, Michigan State, Kansas, and Kentucky. And these teams have been featured multiple years, and they will be featured next year. These teams are among the blue bloods of college basketball, so they always get covered because they're really good every season. With these teams being covered all the time, it pushes smaller schools to smaller platforms like ESPN+, which no one wants to buy, or which not everyone wants to buy. When the smaller programs get pushed to ESPN+, not many people pay attention to the highly qualified athletes on those teams. However, with the new streaming platforms getting in the mix, like Netflix, Paramount+, Peacock, and Amazon Prime, there's opportunity for these schools to get noticed. Let's say you played a D1 sport and you were not covered on ESPN networks. Would you be upset? Or would that just add pressure, being covered on those networks? Another fix we need is the transfer portal. When the athletes can transfer wherever and at any time, it ruins team chemistry. And choosing to sit out just brings negative energy. We need to establish off-season time to transfer. This window will be completely after the season ends, and if an athlete stops participating because they plan to transfer, that should mean that they don't get paid. The only exception is for players entering the NFL or NBA draft. These players who are eligible are allowed to skip late season games that have no effect on the team, and they do it because of injury purposes. Basketball players, though, need to play the full season because of March Madness. Finally, the biggest change in college sports is giving athletes the power to negotiate for themselves through collective bargaining. Collective bargaining is where there is an agreed-upon limit by the schools and the athletes. This limit should be $45,000 to $75,000 for the athletes. The benefit of this is that the athletes will be able to determine what their own value is to the team. Schools would step in to prevent players from inflating their worth or abusing the system. If an athlete breaks the rules, they could just face fines or lose their scholarships. Henry Vansant from the Virginia Law Review compares USC and Dartmouth to show why this matters. At USC, players filed an unfair labor complaint, arguing they basically were being treated like employees under the National Labor Relations Act, or the NLRA. The National Labor Relations Board, NLRB, stepped in because coaches were scheduling mandatory practices and controlling players' time, which is basically what employers do. Under the joint employment theory, which states athletes should be considered employees. I agree with the concept of the employer theory, but I think the athletes should negotiate their own deals so they can gain skills and figure out their true value. At Dartmouth, players sent out a petition to the NLRB to become employees, and the director was in favor of it. But there were issues. Like, nobody could agree on how collective bargaining would even work, and many seniors wouldn't even get this benefit because they would graduate. Vansant says it's possible, but it will require more reform to the NLRA. One guideline I'd add is having athletes go unpaid their freshman year. It gives the schools time to evaluate academics and effort, and it motivates the athletes to go after their goals and strive for even more success down the road. This also allows them to focus on their team and gain relationships through that. Taylor P. Thompson also outlines how to improve NIL rules. Since amateurism is basically non-existent, NIL is how athletes get paid. But the NCAA still puts limits on it. Taylor suggests 3 updates: creating a commission to help negotiate deals, expanding NIL rights, and giving athletes group licensing rights. A commission could act like a team of experienced sports agents who protect the athletes from bad deals and prevent wealthy boosters from influencing coaching decisions. Expanded NIL rights will let athletes earn through both endorsements and school-based payments. Group licensing will also allow athletes to build their own brand, skills, and their actual skills they'll actually use later in life, and help the schools land big partnerships from companies like Nike. All aspects of collective bargaining, commissions, and better NRL rights points to one goal: giving the athletes control over their careers. With these changes, the players won't have to rely on anyone else to negotiate for them, and the schools gain a fair, stable system that works for everyone. With these 3 solutions, revenue sharing, updated Title IX, and collective bargaining, we can fix how the NCAA pays college athletes. Revenue sharing stops the wealthy boosters from controlling decisions. Title IX creates reforms that gives the schools a clear standard to follow, and collective bargaining gives the athletes real control over their contract while still keeping limits in place so the system doesn't get out of hand.